So, well, welcome. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Koch. I've seen a few of you at different events along the way. You were in Indy? Yeah. Is that right? Okay. I was going to say, oh my God, I'm starting to remember. I thought somebody else I recognized earlier. There's one of the earlier sessions. I asked her if she was in Indy. She was like, yeah, I didn't know what was in Indy. And I'm like, somebody here was from India. So, I am the director of recruiting for Progressive Insurance. So they've asked me to do some conversations around social media. Ironically, probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this never would have been a topic for a workshop because I can remember actually being at this career prep day and saying to a group of students when we were talking about resume writing, I remember saying, hey, does anybody know what this LinkedIn thing is? And everybody in the room looked at me like I had 3 heads. They had absolutely no idea what LinkedIn was. It was so new that they were like, what is that? What do I do with it? And I was like, yeah, 5 years from now, I'm going to have a session just on that. And sure enough, we do. I'm not sure if we're at the 5-year mark right now, but pretty darn close. So we don't, like short, as you guys have probably figured out today, everything's a little short, so we try to fit in as much as we can. I will try to do my best to give you some tips and tricks on how to use social media to find a job, where to spend your time, because as you guys know with social media, it is like you can absolutely drain your time trying to keep up with everything that's new and different. And there's different tools to do different things for you, and you don't have to use them all. I think the key is knowing which ones to use based on what you're trying to accomplish. So let me ask this. How many of you have even attempted to use social media for your job search at this point? A little bit? Okay. And what are you using?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn? Are you using anything other than LinkedIn? I'm going to talk about two main social media areas, and that's LinkedIn and Twitter. The purposes being very different. So LinkedIn, as most of you know, is all about building the network. And most people think it's about having as many connections as you can. Having those connections is helpful. I will be honest with you. From a recruiting standpoint, where my recruiters are using LinkedIn more than anything is 2 spots. The groups you are involved with. So if we're looking for accounting majors, we're going out to find all the accounting groups we can find, and my recruiters are joining those groups and getting actively involved in those groups, and they're trying to connect with people through those groups. So if you have a profile and you've connected with all your friends, but you're not in any groups, you need to get involved in the groups. And particularly the more active a group is, the more likelihood that our recruiters are going to join them, and that they're going to also become active, so it will be useful to you. So you want to get your information out there. The other way that we're using it is in LinkedIn, when you upload your resume. We have an entire group of recruiters who all they do is run searches through Google, and they do what we call X-ray your resume. And when we are X-raying resumes, essentially what we are doing is putting together a search string of words that matter based on the job we're trying to find people for, and they build these search strings, and the internet is an amazing thing. It will literally bring back a list of people that have those words in their resume. And that's what we're doing within LinkedIn. They sell a corporate package that companies have now purchased. My recruiters can write these search strings, and it pulls your resume up out of your profile and says, here's the 10 people that have all those criteria that you wanted, and now my recruiters can find you. A couple of reasons it's helpful to know that. First and foremost, if you have a LinkedIn profile and your resume is not attached to it, go attach your resume. Secondly, think about the words you use in your resume. A lot of people just worry about whether the words sound good, but you really need to make sure that the words that are sort of common in the industry that you're looking for are built into your resume, because keyword searches now really mean something. So if you are looking for a management position, words like leadership, management, supervisory need to be in your resume. If it's part of your experience, use the lingo. If you're in IT and there's software that you know specifically, make sure it's in that resume, because that's what the recruiters are going to put in their search strings, and you're going to come up. If that word is not in your resume, then you won't ever come to the top of that pile. Sometimes, I tell people all the time, sometimes it can be really hard to get all of those words into your resume. You're like, oh, I need this word in here, but it doesn't read right? It's happened? There is a trick that never worked when Brian and I were in college, because we only dealt in paper resumes. But today, most of your resumes you are applying online, right? There is a trick in your resume writing. If in the footer of your resume you put keywords and you put them in white font. A recruiter will never see it. Nobody who ever views your resume will ever see it there. But if those words are words that are in their jobs, in their search string, your resume will come up. So I'm like, what a cool trick. Like, you guys have ways to hide keywords in your resumes. So if there's a word that you know you need in your resume and it's just not fitting. Now again, you only get to put words there that are legitimate. Don't make stuff up. But if you know that it's there. Some people will ask, how do I know whether or not something's a keyword I need in there? Easiest way to do it is to go out and look at company websites and look on pages like Monster and Career Builder at job descriptions for the types of jobs that you want. Tell people, go through and print out job descriptions from 4 or 5, maybe 6, as many as 10 different companies for the job you would like to have, and go through and highlight the keywords that they have in their job descriptions. And where you have the same word highlighted for multiple companies, that keyword better be in your job description or in your resume somewhere, because that's how the recruiters are going to do their searches. So those are a couple of the key things with LinkedIn. Don is absolutely right about your picture. And I say that even though I don't have my own picture up on my own LinkedIn page, because I let my recruiters do all the recruiting, so I have been really remiss at my own LinkedIn page. But you do need a picture, and a professional picture is definitely preferable. And make sure that you have a robust enough LinkedIn profile. Take some time with it. Essentially look at it as an extension of your resume writing, and it's where you need to spend your time as you're getting things developed. Let me paste things out there in a minute. What questions do you guys have specifically about LinkedIn? I'm going to talk about Twitter and some of the other ones in a minute, but what questions do you have about LinkedIn?
How professional do our profile pictures need to be?
Ideally, if you've got access to something like this where you could get a headshot, that's great. If not, even if you just, if your roommate takes a picture, preference would be, if depending on the kind of role you're looking for, if you've got, if you went home one day and had your roommate take a picture in your suit and tie, put that on there, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't have to be something you've paid for. It's a nice to have. So if you have access to it through something like today, that's great. But definitely you don't want it to look like you were at the bar. You don't want it to look like, they shouldn't really be looking at 4 or 5 people in your picture to try to figure out which one you are. Try to keep it pretty clean on LinkedIn. Probably doesn't look like your Facebook profile picture.
I meant more in terms of what you're wearing.
What you're wearing? Depends on the kinds of companies you're trying to get into. So if you want to get into the banking industry, I would say you need to have on a suit and tie. If you're trying to get into more like the retail environment or a Google or some of the Zappos or a hipper, bad saying hipper, but a hipper company where they're a casual environment, then you don't need to have a suit and tie on. So I always just tell your profile should always reflect what you want to get into. Most companies are not judging your actual picture. What they want, though, is they want to know you were serious enough about your job search to take time to put into it. So they're less worried about whether or not you're a suit and tie, more worried about the skills and the quality of, kind of like your resume, the quality of the time you've put into it. Other questions on LinkedIn? I was sharing with one of the girls in the earlier session, she asked the question about, how well do you have to know somebody before you try to connect with them? I said, it just depends. So the number of people you are connected with only helps you if, one, you're actually going to work your LinkedIn profile. I may have, 500 connections through LinkedIn, but if I never go out there, those 500 connections are doing me absolutely nothing. So when you connect with people, you need to either know them well enough that you would be willing to use that connection, saying, hey, remember I met you at this event, or I was referred to you by so-and-so, would you mind talking to me? So if you're comfortable using that connection for some direct benefit, or if it's a connection that maybe you don't know well, but they clearly are active within their LinkedIn profile, then they do you good. Because if I connect, even if I don't pick up the phone and have a conversation with them, I become part of one of their generations of connections, and other people that are connected to them can now start to see my information. So that person is valuable to you if they're connected to and working within LinkedIn. It's why getting connected with recruiters is helpful, because A, they're actually doing something out there, and B, you're going to get information from them that is useful. Just connecting with other people who never looked at their LinkedIn profile other than when their career services center told them they had to create one isn't going to do you any good. I always laugh. I'm probably the one person that I'm not doing all my connections in LinkedIn, and I'm not doing them any good because I'm not out there enough doing things for them. But they could all pick up the phone and call and ask me a question at any time, and I'd be happy to help. Again, the groups are huge. You need to go out and do research on the groups in LinkedIn. You need to make sure that you're out there and about, because that's where the recruiters are spending their time. It's where the recruiters are trying to join. It's where the recruiters are making their connections, and they're posting about specific jobs that they have open. My recruiters post to their LinkedIn site and to their groups within LinkedIn before they ever put something on Monster or Career Builder. Because that costs money, LinkedIn does not. I've already paid for LinkedIn, so it doesn't matter. Twitter, on the other hand, has a very different purpose in my mind for you all from a social media perspective. Twitter for you should be all about your connections. You don't actually ever have to tweet to make Twitter useful to you from a job search perspective. But you need to get connected with the right folks. You need to connect with recruiters. You need to connect with alumni who are active about posting and tweeting about jobs in their company. Essentially, Twitter, you should use Twitter as a way to find out what is going on in the job market and to find out about key events. You don't need to post a whole bunch of stuff. Now, if you're good at Twitter, then posting is always helpful, but most of us find that to be it's time consuming, and it's not an easy, quick way to find a job. But if you're connected to a recruiter, for example, in my case, every time one of our college recruiters goes on a campus, we tweet every single person that we send out a mass tweet to anybody that we are connected with on that campus saying, I'm going to be at Washington University this week for an event. And now you know I'm there. You might not have known I was there if you weren't connected with me through Twitter. So it's a way to find out about what companies are doing on your campus. It's a way to find out about job postings. Our recruiters are tweeting not only their own job postings, but many of them are follow other recruiters, and they will retweet other recruiters' openings. So, for example, the recruiters that work on my team only hire for claims and contact center. But I've got a whole team of people that hire for our financial analysts, for our accountants, for our IT folks. Well, those recruiters are all connected, and they all follow each other on Twitter. So when the IT recruiter tweets something, my recruiter can set up a process where it automatically retweets her tweet. So if you're one of my followers, you're going to see not only what I post as openings, but what the IT recruiter posts as openings. So Twitter, in my mind, from a job search perspective, is all about finding a connection in a company that is active in their tweeting, and then just keep following it so that you know what's going on campus. You don't need to push out a lot of information. You don't have to do a lot of tweeting on your own. Just get connected. It's the big piece. The third piece of social media that is starting to pick up some momentum, and I say starting, probably this will be one that 3 years from now I'll be telling you, but I'll have a whole session on this one, is Vine. And the reason Vine is, anybody here know what Vine is? Okay. So folks are, if this were all alumni, they'd look at me and go, what's that? Is that wine? What is that? So Vine is these short video clips, right? And you're like, how does that help me find a job? Companies are using Vine to post short snippet videos primarily targeted at helping you understand the company culture. So if you're researching a company and you're trying to find out what it's like to work there, you might check Vine to see if they have videos posted, because I know even our recruiters who are very new in the Vine space have short little snippets out there that are versions of videos that talk about our company culture and things like that. That's where I think, from what I've seen so far with our recruiters, that's where I think Vine does you the most good at this point from a job search perspective. I always tell people, LinkedIn, in this day and age, you absolutely want to be out there and active on LinkedIn and use your networks to help you find things now when you're in the job search phase. Twitter is all about finding out what the employer that you know you want to go work for is doing on campus and doing in terms of postings, and then the other stuff is all out there for research and opportunities to expand your knowledge about the companies. What kind of questions do you guys have? Broad, wide open. What questions do you have on social media?
In terms of like researching groups, what are some examples of groups that recruiters like look at on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So if your chapter does not have a LinkedIn group, you want first and foremost, things like professional fraternities, your account, like your associations through school.